Welcome to this lesson where we are going to discuss another aid to trade called warehousing. So this is not the first time we're talking about warehousing and its importance, as we did briefly discussed it when we were discussing aids to trade. So in this lesson, we are going to go a bit deep into warehousing. So we start with a warehouse. What is a warehouse? So a warehouse is just a large building in which goods, raw materials, or commodities are stored. As simple as that. Okay? Then what is warehousing? So warehousing is the storage of goods to protect them from bad weather before sale. So by bad weather, we mean to protect them from rain in a case of goods that can be damaged by rain, or from the sun in a case of goods that can be damaged by the sun. Okay, so all the weather elements, we need to protect goods against them. Okay, so let's take a look at importance of warehouses. Okay, the first is that they provide protection of goods against climatic conditions, which is the one of actually the key objective of warehousing. Okay, to protect goods against climatic conditions. But warehousing comes with more advantages other than offering protection against climatic conditions. Okay, such other advantage is protection from theft. Okay, so if you store goods, commodities, or products inside a warehouse, then you protect them from theft, right? Another one is it allows producers, or should I say producers can store raw materials for future production. Okay, in case you don't want to use those materials now, you want to use it 2 years later or from now, you can store your materials in a warehouse. Okay, also it allows for surplus creation, or surplus created can be stored before being finally sold. Okay, so meaning that if there is the extra good, the extra commodities that may not be needed by the market right there and then, you can store them. For example, if Zambia needs about 2,000 tons of maize and we have a bump harvest, we have produced 3,000 tons, we can keep the extra 1,000 ton of maize for future selling. Okay, we cannot sell it in that year since Zambia only needs 2,000 tons. Okay, and because of warehousing, shortages in the markets can be avoided. Imagine a situation where you produce goods, and once you produce the goods, you sell them. Okay, in a case where you fail to produce, then there's going to be shortages in the market. Okay, but if you're able to store some goods, okay, then there will be no shortage, because you can provide what the market needs, then the extra you keep, and if the market has no goods, then you can supply the market with the goods that were stored. Okay. Other importances of warehousing includes price fluctuations can be minimized. Okay, since you have control on the goods that can be on the market, so changes in the price can be reduced. Okay, there could be changes but not that much. Okay, because changes in the price are mainly determined by the supply demand chain. So for those who are going to pursue business further, who may wish to go into economics, you are going to learn about the demand supply chain. Okay, so the demand is the amount of goods that people need. The supply is the amount of goods that the suppliers can supply. Okay, so the balance between the two determines how much the prices of goods are. Of course, there are other factors that determine the price, but the supply demand chain has an impact as well. Also, without warehousing, international trade is not possible. Okay, so warehousing makes it possible for international trade. Remember the role of bonded warehouses. Okay, and of course, when goods are sent across borders, okay, they have to be received, kept well, and all. So international trade is almost not possible without warehousing. Also, traders can keep their cargoes in bonded warehouses before they pay the duty. Remember bonded warehouses, okay? We're going to discuss them again, okay? So, meaning that when, in case you don't have money to pay for the duty, you can keep your goods in bonded warehouses, which you can pay later, okay? So warehousing also plays important role when demand for products or the time of production is seasonal. Okay, so this is connected to what we discussed, the point which says in times of surplus you can keep the goods and supply them to the market when there is shortage, okay, or when there's need, okay. So because of that, we can also say it plays important role when demand for products or the time of production is seasonal. So seasonal means it's not always that that product is going to be needed. Maybe it will be needed maybe during the rain season, for example, umbrellas, okay? If you're in the business of selling umbrellas, you won't be selling throughout the year, because when there's no rain, then no one is going to buy an umbrella, okay? Because of that, you can store the umbrellas you ordered in a warehouse and supply them to the market when it's rain season, okay? So that's the importance of warehousing. It also provides space for display of goods. So this is something that may seem a bit far-fetched, but it's also very important. So if goods are in a warehouse, it's possible that the wholesalers or the retailers who may pass through the warehouse, they may see the goods that are there. So that is also another importance, because they may know, oh, there's this good, there's this item. Oh, okay, so the warehouse has that item. It's somehow important. In a way, it's more like advertising the goods that are there. So this is also an importance. Okay, so now we look at types of warehouses. We're going to start with a retailer's warehouse or a depot. Okay, it's called a depot or retailer's warehouse. Okay, so what does it do? So basically, this is the warehouse for a retailer. Okay, so a retailer can have a warehouse. Okay, so its function is to store bulk purchases from wholesaler or producer. So when a retailer buys a lot of items from a wholesaler or producer, they can put them also in their retailer warehouse. Okay. So in these retailer warehouses, goods are packed and branded. Okay. So in the warehouse where goods are supposed to be stored, they are packed and branded right there. Okay. Why? Why are they packed and branded? Okay, remember the last function of a warehouse, the display aspect. Okay, it may give information to potential future buyers of the items that are available. So that's why in these retail warehouses, goods are packed and branded. Okay. Also, retailers can purchase goods when they are cheap and can stock excess purchase. Okay, so sometimes goods can be cheap. Okay, for example, I'll give a common business in Zambia. Oh, it's not a common business, but it's one of those businesses in Zambia. The business of selling beans, dry beans. Okay, so I think in Nakondo somewhere there is a season when there's too much of it. So people buy and come and sell in Lusaka. But in Lusaka, since there are a lot of people selling, so the price is not that good. So what retailers do, they go to Nakonde, they buy in bulk, okay, because it's cheap, okay. Then they're going to store it in their warehouses, waiting for those who are buying and selling to deplete their stock. Okay, so there are no many people selling beans. Then these intelligent or clever retailers start selling. Okay, so that's the role of a warehouse. Retailers can purchase goods when they are cheap and can stock excess purchase. Okay. So also, it makes sure that goods are always available to fill the space on the shelves. So as the retailers are selling in their shops, there will be no situation where maybe they have run out of a given item. Okay, for example, if they sell detergent paste, for example, Boom, there will be no situation where Boom has run out because they have a warehouse where they just go and get. Okay, so that's another importance of a retailer's warehouse or a depot. Next, we move to another type of a warehouse called a wholesaler's warehouse. Okay, this is a retailer's warehouse is small, but a wholesaler's warehouse is big, which is just simply a warehouse for wholesalers. Okay, so what is its importance, or what are some of its features? Okay, so this one is used for blending, grading, packing, and branding. Okay, so the wholesalers use this type of a warehouse or their warehouse for blending, grading, packing, and branding of items. Okay, of course, the basic function is to store goods from variety of manufacturers. Okay, so wholesalers get items from manufacturers. So the basic, or should I say, the most important function of a wholesaler's warehouse is to store goods from variety of manufacturers. Of course, it comes with other features, or the wholesalers use it for blending, grading, packing, and branding of products or items. It is also used to store bulk purchases from manufacturers or producers. Okay, manufacturers and producers are one and the same thing in a way. Okay, manufacturers, they make things. Producers may refer to farmers who produce the actual goods. Okay, so the basic function of the wholesalers warehouse is to store goods from variety of manufacturers and producers, and also to store bulk purchases from manufacturers and producers. Okay, so the key difference between this point and this point is here there is emphasis on bulk purchases. Okay, also, just like the importance of or the role that the importance of any warehouse, this one also helps to stabilize prices. Next, we move to another one which we have already discussed, but just a recap. So cash and carry warehouses. Okay, in most should I say companies in Lusaka, I think we have cash and carry warehouses. So what are the features of cash and carry warehouses? Okay, so in these types of warehouses, retailers can buy in small quantities. Okay, so in these ones, it's possible for retailers to buy in small quantities, okay? And also, the items are very cheap because of bulk purchases. So in these ones, when you go there, they can even tell you the price if you just want to buy, and the price if you want to buy at an order price. I think so most shops in Kamara Market, they function in this way, okay? More like cash and carry warehouses, where they say the order price for this is this, and the buy price for this is this. So if you want to buy to order so that you can go and resell, then you can get at an order price, okay? But of course, the order price means you have to get more than one item, okay? So in that case, it's going to be cheap. There is no credit facility and no delivery, okay? That is, you cannot get something on credit, and you have to go there and get items. Nothing is going to be delivered to you. There is no delivery. Next, we look at regional distribution centers. So these are the big guys in the business of warehousing, okay? They distribute in the entire region, okay? So these ones are owned and maintained by large-scale retailers and wholesalers, okay? Large scale, not small retailers and wholesalers, okay? They are located close to a good road network, because most of the times they distribute by transporting the items from their location to the retailer's location, okay, or to other small warehouses, okay? So they are located close to a good road network, okay? Supermarkets, multiple chains, variety chains, franchise, chain of department stores, hypermarkets mainly use regional distribution centers to have their items, okay? So that's another feature of regional distribution centers. So after looking at that last feature for regional distribution centers, we go to the next type of a warehouse called manufacturer's warehouse, okay? So these ones are used to keep stock of finished goods and raw materials. So in manufacturers, for example, if the industry is in charge of making bicycles, when they're done making their bicycles, they put them in a warehouse, okay? So these types of warehouses are called manufacturers' warehouses, okay? So they help producers to carry on production when there is shortage of raw materials, okay? So this simply means in case there is a shortage of raw materials, still producers can continue to do their production. What does this mean? Let's say the example of a bicycle that I gave, in a case maybe they don't have raw materials for making tires, okay? So they can continue making other parts and stocking them in their warehouse while awaiting for the materials for tires to be available. Once the materials for tires are available, then they will make the tires and, of course, have complete bicycles using the finished parts that are stored in the warehouse, okay? They can also help producer keep on production when there is less demand, which just makes sense thinking of it in this way. They're making bicycles. No one is interested in bicycles during that time. So the manufacturers or producers can keep on producing, okay, till when there's demand, and then whatever they have been keeping, they can sell. So the manufacturers or producers will keep on producing, and what they are producing, they are keeping in the warehouse, and when the demand comes back, they sell, okay? So that's a feature of a manufacturer's warehouse. Another feature is the producer or manufacturer can get benefit of trade discount by purchasing raw materials in bulk, okay? So because they have got a warehouse where they can store the parts, okay, so, or where they can store the raw materials, okay, so they can get the purchase of raw material in bulk, meaning they can get a lot of them and they can be given discounts. Okay, so to give an example so that you have a picture, think of it in this way. The example I gave of bicycles. Okay, so now maybe they need tires. Okay, now the material for tires is now available. Okay, so they can get a lot even if they don't need that. For example, they need 100 tires, or they need material for making 100 tires, but they can get maybe for 500 tires. The 400 they keep, okay? But because they are getting a lot of them, they can be given discount. So that's an advantage of a warehouse. If there was no warehouse, they can't get 500 of them, because where are they going to keep them? Okay, therefore they'll be forced to buy a small quantity, and because it's a small quantity, maybe they won't be given a discount. That's the thinking here, and that's the importance of a manufacturer's warehouse. So these ones are also located in manufacturers' production houses, okay? So in short, where the industry is, where the manufacturer's industry is, that's where the warehouse is going to be located, not far away. There's no need to be transporting, because transport is a cost. If the warehouse is very far from the actual production where items are made, then the materials have to be transported from the warehouse to where production actually happens, to the industry. So now this transportation is a cost. So the base is to make sure that if the production house is here, or the industry where the actual production or manufacturing happens is here, the warehouse should also be here, okay, so that they can just be getting the materials direct from the warehouse, okay. So the next type of a warehouse is called a public warehouse, okay. So these are owned by public sectors, okay, such as the government, okay. So in these ones, different government agencies can stock their materials, okay. So if this given government has different agencies that are involved in trade, then they can stock, all of them, they can stock their materials in one warehouse called a public warehouse, okay. Also, space or the actual warehouse can be rented to the private sector, okay. So space or the full warehouse can be rented to a private sector. Next, we look at the famous bonded warehouses. Exercise 1, I think, of commerce. I gave a question on bonded warehouse, and here we are now looking at it again. Okay, so these are owned by government and are under the control of custom authorities. Okay, in short, in Zambia, we're talking about ZRA, Zambia Revenue Authority. So that's the first feature of bonded warehouses, or that's what bonded warehouses are. Okay, so in these warehouses, dutiable goods are stored. Okay, that is goods on which duty is not yet paid. Okay, so once you order items from China, once the items have reached Zambia, but you have not paid for the duty, they are going to be stored in bonded warehouses. Okay, items cannot just come in Zambia, you have to pay to ZRA. Okay, now if you have not paid yet, they are going to be kept in bonded warehouses. So these are normally located on ports, airports, seaports, okay, because that's where items are received. So in these bonded warehouses, traders have to pay money for rent, okay, for renting the warehouse. There's also grading, vending, packing, branding, and sub-assembly can be done. Sub-assembly is where you are allowed to connect part of the items, okay? So these are allowed to be done in these bonded warehouses. Another feature of a bonded warehouse is traders can also sell the cargo and the new owners to pay the duties. Okay, so it's possible to sell your items. You have ordered blankets from China. They are received, but you have not paid the duty. So they have been taken by ZRA and kept in bonded warehouse. So it's possible you can sell your goods. Then the person who's going to buy the goods, for them to get the goods, they have to pay a duty. Okay? And nothing can be taken out of warehouse without paying duty. Okay? So this is very important. Another feature is traders can pay some of the duty and get a part of the cargo. Okay? For example, you have ordered 20 blankets, so you have to pay 1 kwacha for each blanket, but you only have 10 kwacha. So you can pay 10 kwacha and get 10 of the goods, then 10 are going to remain. Also, exporting can also be done without paying duty, okay? So duty is only paid on importing, not exporting. So the bonded warehouses enables the government to collect custom duties, in the process making revenue and also controlling international trade. The government also gets information about the types of goods that are being imported. Imagine you are importing bombs, okay? So the government should have information on what type of goods are you bringing to the country. So they get information of every item that goes into the bonded warehouse. So to end this lesson, we're going to take a look at the difference between a bonded warehouse and an ordinary warehouse. Okay, so bonded warehouses are located near ports, like airports or seaports. Okay, well, ordinary warehouses have no specific location. We know that manufacturers' warehouses must be located where there is good transport network, but there's no any information pertaining to the specificity of their location. They can be located anywhere, okay? But what is important maybe is there should be a good road network. But that is just one type of an ordinary warehouse, but there's no, for the ordinary warehouses, they can be located anywhere, okay? Then the other difference is bonded warehouses are controlled by custom authorities. In our case, it's Zambia Revenue Authority, while ordinary warehouses are controlled by the owner. Okay, again, bonded warehouses, they store dutiable goods, while ordinary warehouses, they store finished goods and raw materials. Another difference is bonded warehouses, they store dutiable goods, which cannot be removed until the duty is paid. Well, for ordinary warehouses, there is no condition which states when goods can be removed or not. Okay, so there's free movement of goods in and out of the warehouse. Okay, finally, bonded warehouses are owned by the government, while ordinary warehouses are owned by the private sector. So these are the differences between bonded warehouses and ordinary warehouses. So this marks the end of this lesson. See you in the next lesson.